The night Lucas Bennett became a billionaire, he didn't celebrate. He refreshed a dashboard. He watched numbers climb. 8 digits, 9 digits. His company valuation crossed $1 billion at 11:38 p.m. Investors were texting. Journalists were calling. Champagne bottles were opening in offices across Silicon Valley. But in a small blue house in Ohio, a porch light stayed on, waiting. And no one there knew their son had just made it. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's story, I just want to say how grateful I am for each one of you. Your support keeps this channel alive and growing every single day. If you love these kinds of stories, please like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think. I read them all. All right, let's get into today's story. Lucas Bennett was born in a town so quiet that the loudest sound after 8 p.m. was the train passing 2 miles away. Maplewood, Ohio. Population 11,204. Nothing extraordinary ever happened there, except Lucas. He was the kind of child who took apart remote controls just to see how signals worked, who asked his teachers why instead of accepting because, who didn't just want good grades, he wanted escape. His father, Thomas Bennett, worked third shift at a packaging plant, 32 years on the same concrete floor. His hands were always rough, his back always slightly bent, his paycheck always just enough. His mother, Helen Bennett, taught 10th grade English at the local high school. She loved poetry, she loved order, and she loved her son in a way that felt limitless. They weren't poor, but they were careful. Coupons in drawers, lights turned off religiously, leftovers labeled in neat handwriting. And yet, Lucas never felt deprived, because in that house, ambition was fed daily. At dinner every night, his mother would ask, "What did you learn today?" And his father would add, "What did you build?" Lucas learned early that effort mattered, that excuses didn't. But he also learned something else. He never wanted to struggle like they did. Not ever. At 14, Lucas built his first app. It wasn't revolutionary, it was a homework planner. But he coded it alone in his bedroom for 6 months. When it hit 10,000 downloads, he printed the number and taped it above his desk. 10,000 strangers trusted something he built. That number felt like oxygen. His father didn't understand the code. His mother didn't understand the platform, but they understood pride. His dad placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Whatever this computer thing is, you're going to be great at it." That sentence carved itself into Lucas's identity. Great. Not good, not comfortable. Great. The day Lucas left for Stanford, his mother cried quietly in the kitchen. His father pretended he had something in his eye. Maplewood felt smaller than ever as he drove away. His rearview mirror framed the blue house one last time. He didn't know it then, but that image would come back to him years later. At Stanford, he found people just like him, hungry, relentless, competitive. Suddenly, he wasn't the smartest in the room anymore, and that terrified him. So he worked harder. While others slept, Lucas coded. While others dated, Lucas networked. While others partied, Lucas built prototypes. He called home every Sunday. His mother would ask about classes. His father would ask if he was eating enough. Lucas would answer quickly, already thinking about his next sprint. But he still called. That mattered. For a while. The idea came during his junior year. He noticed something in consumer data trends, a pattern no one was exploiting. AI-driven predictive purchasing behavior, not reacting to what customers wanted, but anticipating it before they knew it. He pitched it to 3 professors. 2 dismissed it. 1 called it premature. Lucas heard something else. Opportunity. He stayed up 47 straight hours building a working prototype. When the first beta client increased revenue by 18%, everything changed. Suddenly, investors were listening. The first funding round was small. The second was larger. The third made headlines. Nexora Labs was officially born, and Lucas Bennett stopped being a student. He became a founder. Success is intoxicating, not because of money, because of validation. For the first time in his life, Lucas felt powerful. Rooms quieted when he spoke. Emails were answered instantly. Investors treated him like a visionary. And slowly, quietly, his phone calls home shortened. "Hey Mom, I've got 5 minutes. Dad, I'll call you back, investor meeting." His parents never complained, never guilted him, never demanded. Instead, they adapted. His mother started emailing instead of calling. His father sent short texts. "Proud of you, son." Lucas would glance at them between meetings, sometimes respond, sometimes forget. He told himself, they understand. They want this for me. And he wasn't wrong, but understanding doesn't erase loneliness. Thanksgiving. Year 3 of Nexora. Revenue had tripled. A major acquisition was pending. Lucas had booked a flight home. Then an emergency board meeting got scheduled. It's just one holiday, he told himself. He called his mother the night before. "I can't make it this year." There was a pause. "Oh? Okay, sweetheart. We'll save you leftovers." His father got on the phone. "Business first. We get it." They did get it. That was the problem. At 6:30 p.m. Thanksgiving night, 2 plates were set instead of 3. The third plate remained in the cabinet, unused. That became a pattern. By 30, Lucas was featured on a major tech magazine. Headline, "The Architect of Predictive Commerce." He bought a penthouse in San Francisco, floor-to-ceiling windows, city skyline views, minimalist furniture, no photographs. Not because he didn't have memories, because he didn't have time to look at them. His mother framed the magazine cover and placed it on the living room wall in Ohio. Visitors would come over and she'd say, "That's our Lucas." Her voice carried pride. But sometimes, late at night, she'd stare at the photo a little longer than necessary, as if trying to see whether success had changed his eyes. His father's back pain worsened. Years of factory work had consequences. He didn't mention it much. His mother began forgetting small things, where she placed her glasses, whether she had locked the door. She laughed it off, just getting older. Lucas heard about these things in fragments, between airport gates, between investor dinners, between keynote speeches. He registered the information, but he didn't absorb it, because aging felt theoretical, not urgent. There would be time. There is always time, until there isn't. Every night, no matter the weather, his father left the porch light on. It became habit. "Just in case he visits," he'd say casually. Lucas didn't know that. He didn't know his mother sometimes sat by the window after dinner. Didn't know they replayed his old voicemails. Didn't know they kept every article, every interview, every press release in a labeled folder. Because while he was building a global empire, their world had narrowed to memories of him. One night, after a major funding announcement, Lucas stood alone in his penthouse. The city glittered below him. His phone buzzed bazoomly. "Mom." He stared at it, let it ring. It stopped. A minute later, voicemail. He didn't listen. Instead, he opened his laptop, watched the valuation numbers climb again, growth charts rising like skyscrapers. He felt powerful, in control, ahead of everyone. And 5 states away, in a small blue house on Maple Street, 2 aging parents sat at a kitchen table, the porch light glowing outside, weighing, not for a billionaire, just for their son. He told himself he would call her back in the morning. Morning became afternoon. Afternoon became another flight, another meeting, another negotiation where millions of dollars moved across a table with a single signature. His calendar was color-coded chaos, every minute assigned, every hour monetized. But time doesn't care about your calendar. 3 days later, while standing in a glass-walled conference room overlooking downtown San Francisco, his assistant walked in quietly. She never interrupted meetings. Never. "Lucas," she whispered carefully, "your mother has called 4 times this morning." He didn't look up from the financial projections on the screen. "Tell her I'll call tonight." There was a pause. She sounded different. He exhaled, slightly annoyed at the emotional tone. "I'll call tonight." He didn't. That evening turned into a celebratory dinner with investors from New York. They were expanding into Europe. It was big, massive, career-defining. At 11:42 p.m., he finally checked his phone. 7 missed calls, 2 voicemails. His chest tightened slightly, but not with panic, just inconvenience. He stepped outside the restaurant and pressed play. Her voice trembled. "Hi, sweetheart. I didn't want to bother you. Your dad had a little fall in the driveway. He says he's fine. I just wanted to tell you. Call when you can." The word fall lingered. He dialed immediately. His father answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey, champ." His voice sounded thinner. "Dad, what happened?" "Oh, nothing. Slipped on some gravel. Your mom overreacts." "You should have told me sooner." His father chuckled softly. "You're busy building your empire." It was said lightly, but something in the tone unsettled him. "When was the last time you saw a doctor?" Lucas asked. "I'm fine, son." Fine. That word again. He booked a flight for the following weekend, then canceled it 2 days later when a crucial acquisition opportunity emerged. He sent flowers instead. His mother called to thank him. "They're beautiful, honey, but you didn't have to." He heard something behind her gratitude. Not disappointment, not anger, just distance. Weeks passed. His father's fall became 2 falls. His mother began repeating stories within the same conversation. Once, during a call, she forgot the name of his company. What is it called again? He laughed lightly. "Nixora, Mom." "Yes, Nixora. I knew that." He didn't think much of it. He should have. Success has a way of numbing sensitivity to small changes, and small changes are where life quietly shifts. One afternoon, during a live interview streamed to thousands, Lucas's phone buzzed repeatedly in his pocket. He ignored it. Afterward, backstage, he glanced at the screen. 12 missed calls, all from his mother. His stomach dropped this time. He called back immediately. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. His heartbeat quickened. Then finally, she picked up. "Oh, hi, sweetheart." Her voice sounded confused. "Mom, what happened?" "Oh, nothing. I must have butt dialed you." He stared at the phone. "You called 12 times." A pause. "Oh, did I?" Something in him shifted. For the first time, irritation was replaced with fear. He called their neighbor, Mrs. Daniels. "She's been a little forgetful lately," Mrs. Daniels admitted gently. "And your father doesn't move like he used to." Lucas sat in silence after the call. The glass walls of his office suddenly felt suffocating. That night, instead of reviewing projections, he opened old photos. There he was, 8 years old, sitting on his father's shoulders at a county fair. There he was, graduation day, his mother crying into a tissue. They looked invincible in those photos, strong, stable, permanent. He realized he had frozen them in that version in his mind. Parents don't age in your imagination. They stay how you last remember them. And Lucas hadn't visited in almost a year. The next week, his mother called again. This time, her voice was shaking. "Lucas, your dad is in the hospital." Everything inside him went quiet. What happened? He collapsed in the kitchen. The word collapsed echoed louder than billionaire ever had. He booked the earliest flight. No meetings, no negotiations, no assistance. Just him. On the plane, for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about valuation. He was thinking about the porch light. He landed and drove straight to the hospital. The antiseptic smell hit him first. Hospitals reduce everyone to the same vulnerability. In the room, he saw his father connected to machines. smaller than he remembered. His hands, once strong enough to lift him effortlessly, now rested fragile against white sheets. His father opened his eyes slowly. "Well, look who finally made it home." It wasn't said with bitterness, but it wasn't a joke either. Lucas stepped closer. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what?" "For not being here." His father studied him. "You built something incredible." His voice was weak but steady. "But don't forget where you came from." Lucas swallowed hard. His mother stood in the corner of the room, looking exhausted, older, much older than he remembered. He stayed 3 days. 3 days where he sat by the hospital bed instead of in boardrooms. 3 days where he listened instead of spoke. 3 days where numbers didn't matter. On the 4th day, his father was stable. "Go back to your company," his father insisted. "Don't let it fall apart because of me." Lucas hesitated, but old habits are powerful. He left, and as he walked out of the hospital, his mother hugged him longer than usual. "Come back soon," she whispered. "I will." He believed it. He truly did. Back in San Francisco, everything accelerated. The company was preparing for a massive global expansion. Investors demanded attention. Competitors were circling. He told himself this phase was temporary, just one more push, just one more milestone. Then he'd slow down. Then he'd visit more. Then he'd stay longer. Then. But life doesn't wait for your then. Calls from home became less frequent, not because things improved, because his mother didn't want to disturb him. His father stopped texting altogether. Lucas interpreted silence as stability. Silence is dangerous that way. One evening, after a long strategy meeting, he noticed something odd. No missed calls that week. No messages. No updates. He dialed the house phone. It rang longer than usual. Finally, his mother answered. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice sounded distant. "Everything okay?" "Oh, yes, we're fine." He heard his father coughing in the background, a deep, rattling cough. "Dad should see someone," Lucas said. "We don't want to make a fuss." He closed his eyes. "You're not a fuss." There was a long pause. "We know you're busy," she said softly. And that sentence hurt more than accusation would have. Busy. He had become busy. Not present, not available, busy. That night, for the first time, Lucas couldn't sleep. The city skyline outside his window glittered like always, but something felt off. He imagined the blue house, the quiet kitchen, 2 aging figures moving slower than before. He picked up his phone, started to book a flight, stopped. He had a product launch in 3 days, a global press conference. This could not be rescheduled. He placed the phone back down. "I'll go next week," he whispered to himself. Next week. He didn't know it yet, but next week was already too late. And somewhere in Ohio, the porch light flickered slightly in the cold night air, still on, still waiting. The call came on a Tuesday. It wasn't from his mother. It wasn't from his father. It was from Mrs. Daniels next door. Lucas almost let it go to voicemail. He didn't recognize the number, but something quiet and instinctive made him answer. "Hello?" There was hesitation on the other end. "Lucas, it's Margaret Daniels from Maple Street." His throat tightened immediately. "Yes, is everything okay?" Silence. And then the kind of sigh that carries bad news before words ever do. "I'm so sorry, dear." The world didn't stop. That's the strange thing about tragedy. The city outside his office kept moving. Cars kept honking. Emails kept arriving. But inside him, something went still. "What happened?" he whispered. "Your father passed early this morning." He felt the air leave his lungs. Passed. Not sick, not struggling. Passed. How? His voice cracked. He went peacefully, in his sleep. Peaceful. That word felt cruel, because nothing inside Lucas felt peaceful. "And your mother?" he asked. Another silence. She's not well. The doctors say the stress was too much. His hands started shaking. I'm booking a flight. You should hurry, she said gently. That sentence echoed louder than anything else. You should hurry, as if time was suddenly fragile glass. He didn't remember packing, didn't remember the drive to the airport, didn't remember the flight. He only remembered staring at nothing while everything replayed in his head. The missed calls, the canceled flights, the next weeks, the unopened voicemails. When he landed in Ohio, the air felt colder than he remembered. Maple Street hadn't changed. Same sidewalks, same trees, but the blue house looked smaller, faded. The porch light was still on. It was daytime, and it was still on. He walked to the door slowly. For years, he had imagined coming home triumphant, successful, victorious. Not like this. He unlocked the door. The smell hit him first. His mother's cooking, lavender cleaner. Home. Mom? He called softly. No answer. The silence was unbearable. He walked into the living room. On the wall, the magazine cover with his face was still framed. The Architect of Predictive Commerce. Underneath it, dust had begun to collect. He moved toward the bedroom. His mother was lying in bed, eyes closed, still. Too still. He froze. Mom? He stepped closer. Her hand felt cold. The paramedics later told him she had passed just hours after his father. Her heart simply gave out. 2 weeks apart, 43 years of marriage, and they couldn't survive the separation. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed. For the first time since he was a child, he cried without holding back. Not quiet tears, not controlled emotion, but the kind of grief that shakes your entire body. He wasn't a CEO in that moment. He wasn't a billionaire. He was just a son who arrived too late. The funeral was small. Maplewood doesn't do extravagance. Neighbors came, former co-workers of his father, old students of his mother. They spoke about kindness, about reliability, about how his father never missed a shift, about how his mother stayed after school to help struggling kids. Simple lives, impactful in quiet ways. Lucas stood at the podium. He had spoken to thousands before, auditoriums, conferences, global summits. But this was the first time words failed him. I built a company that predicts human behavior, he said slowly, and yet I never predicted losing them. The room was silent. I thought success meant building something big. His voice trembled. But they built something bigger. He looked at the casket. They built me. After the service, he returned to the house alone. The kitchen table was neatly arranged, 2 plates still in the cabinet, and in the center of the table, an envelope, his name written in his mother's handwriting. To our son. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside were newspaper clippings, printouts of interviews, screenshots of articles about Nexera. Every achievement he had ever celebrated publicly, they had celebrated privately. At the bottom of the envelope was a handwritten letter. We always knew you would change the world. The ink was slightly smudged. We just hoped the world wouldn't take you away from us completely. He swallowed hard. We are so proud of you, Lucas. Always have been, always will be. There was no blame in the letter, no accusation, just love. Unconditional, uncomplicated. And that made it worse, because they never demanded his time, they simply waited for it. He walked through the house slowly that night. His old bedroom still had coding notebooks stacked in the corner, a faded poster on the wall. The house hadn't moved forward. It had stayed exactly where he left it. He stepped outside onto the porch, The porch light was still on. He reached up and turned it off. For the first time in years, the darkness felt honest. The following week, headlines exploded. Tech billionaire steps down as CEO. Speculation flooded social media. Burnout, health crisis, internal scandal. They were wrong. Lucas held a press conference not in San Francisco, but in Maplewood, standing in front of the Blue House. "I built Nexera to predict the future," he said slowly, "but I forgot something simple. Time with the people who love you is not renewable." He announced his resignation, transferred leadership, shifted his shares into a foundation focused on elder care and support for families of high-growth entrepreneurs. Investors were shocked. The tech world called it irrational, but Lucas no longer cared about rational in the way they defined it. He stayed in Maplewood for months, sorting through belongings, reading old notes from his childhood, listening to saved voicemails he never returned. One voicemail in particular haunted him. "Hi, sweetheart. We just wanted to hear your voice tonight." That was it. No emergency, no request, just longing. He played it over and over, not to torture himself, but to remember. Years later, when people asked him about success, he would say something different. "Build your dreams," he'd tell young founders, "but schedule dinner with your parents." They'd laugh. He wouldn't. Because here's the truth no one tells you when you're chasing something big. Success expands your world, but neglect shrinks someone else's. You can build platforms, you can build wealth, you can build empires, but if you don't protect your relationships while climbing, you may reach the top alone. And when you finally have time, the porch light might already be off, and the house empty. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, surprised you, or kept you hooked, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It really helps the channel grow. I'll see you in the next story.